as well as foreign policy items and security-related issues. Turkey is one of the countries who has gone through the pandemic with great success. Turkey actually ranks one of the very first in terms of successful management of this pandemic. Thanks to the precautions that we took, Turkey has fared much better than many other nations around the world. Tests are delivered at a price in many countries around the world, but since the very beginning of the pandemic, COVID-19 tests have been free of charge in Turkey, and just like the other countries, we offer vaccines free of charge in Turkey. Now, I would like to call out to all our citizens to make sure that they get their appointments who are available for everyone above the age of 18 so that they can protect themselves and their loved ones. Because right now, across the world, when it comes to this disease, there is nothing other than the vaccine, and no other proven method, no other proven precaution against this disease. And there are certain negative campaigns against vaccination, which are not based on science and reason. Now, our Ministry of Health has created a roadmap for the management of the pandemic, as well as directives that lay down rules as to how we need to take precautions against this disease. Until we have herd immunity, we need to stick to social distancing, wearing masks, and we need to attach also great importance to cleanliness. In addition to healthcare-related precautions throughout the pandemic, we also initiated a series of practices in order to make sure that we supported our citizens during this difficult time. And from our budget and from different funds, we offered 150 billion Turkish lira in total. By the end of this year, this amount is going to total 196 billion Turkish lira, which equals 3.5% of our national income. Now, all the postponed loans and social security premiums have been postponed, and that's 500 billion, that's 9% of our national income. We have mobilized these resources to make sure that those in need, employees, employers, investors, were all supported by the government. When it comes to agricultural support, 63% of the overall support, that's 15 billion Turkish lira, and that went to the producers in the first 6 months of this year. Now, thanks to these measures and thanks to purchasing incentives, we offered good prices to our farmers, and due to the drought, there might be certain problems down the line, and we have taken our measures to combat the negative effects of this. Now, in June, eligible price wheat and other feed sales that were stopped in June will recommence in July, and until the harvest of next year, this practice is going to continue, and those engaged in animal husbandry and animal feed will benefit from this scheme. Our animal feed producers, in order to get raw materials, and also animal husbandry farmers will be able to make applications to get their animal feed, and also in order to meet the animal feed need of the animal husbandry sector, we will continue to support production of animal feed. In the first 6 months of this year, 800 million lira was actually given to farmers that grow animal feed plants, and we increased the total acreage of animal feed plants in Turkey substantially. Now, because of the pandemic and drought, certain people are trying to manipulate this situation. Some people have been skyrocketing prices of off certain food items, but we will not let that happen. Our biggest strength against the drought is the measures that we took in the last 19 years. We invested heavily in water dams and water storage facilities. And actually today, before the cabinet meeting, we had the inauguration ceremony for a water treatment system for Ankara, the Gerede system, and Kırıkkale Sulakyurt irrigation system, as well as Çankaya Dereçatı dam were all operationalized today. This investment totals 1.5 billion Turkish lira in total, and hopefully they will be auspicious to our country and to our nation. With the same determination, we continue to strive for better in every field, thanks to this holistic approach. As the world is getting smaller and smaller, as EU countries are getting smaller, we closed 2020 with growth. Similarly, when it comes to industrial production, we are experiencing positive developments compared to the previous year, the same period. 66% in production, 96% in turnover is the increase that we have achieved this year. And thankfully, in 2021, we had a good start. In the first quarter, our growth rate was 7%, and we take a pride in this picture because we see in machinery especially a great boost in production, and also in growth between domestic demand and international demand. We are striking a better balance, a better equilibrium that makes us very happy indeed. Now, predictors for the second quarter is going to be around 20% per annum. That's the annual growth rate. And as for the entirety of the year, our midterm plan is 5.8%, but we are going to outperform that as well, as far as we can tell. In export, we break a new record every month. In the first 6 months, compared to the previous year, there was a 40% increase in export. And it seems as if by the end of this year, for the first time, we will have surpassed 200 billion US dollars as Turkey. Now, this strong export performance, declining gold import, and the rebound in tourism will also improve our current account deficit. So on the foreign financing side, we will have the upper hand. And the precautions that we are taking and the rejuvenation in economic activities will also address the wounds when it comes to employment. And since April 2020, 2.8 million new jobs have been created thanks to this development. But of course, for Turkey, this is not enough. For women and for young people, we need to do more. We need to strengthen workforce markets, and that will always be our top priority. And I also have some good news for the retired. Now, in July, their salaries and their bonus for Eid will be deposited into their bank accounts before Eid al-Adha, and also in their salaries for January, July, there will be a readjustment, 8.45%. That will be the increase that will be reflected on their salaries. So 12 million citizens will actually benefit from this move, and a total of 38 billion lira will be made. And also the Provincial Bank and the European Union, World Bank and the French Development Agency have joined their forces to focus on 15 provinces, and 5.8 billion worth of grant and loan agreement have also been signed. With this resource, 18 million people in Turkey and 2.3 million asylum seekers will receive better infrastructure services. Honorable members of our nation, the Turkish economy is one of its biggest strengths is public finances. Between January and May, our performance was spectacular. Compared to the first 5 months of the previous year, the budget deficit was 90 billion lira. For the same period of this year, the deficit stood at 7.5 billion only. And we know that our goal for 2021 has been revised downward, and the deficit is now going to be 3.5% of the national income. Now, this is going to give us leeway to meet the needs of our citizens, if needs be, in the future. In tax policies, between tax burden and income needs, we are doing our best to strike a sensitive balance, and investments that will be detrimental to the economy is something that we try to shun. We do not wish to put a tax burden on the shoulders of investors. So throughout our governments, in ready-wear, in pharmaceuticals, in healthcare, treatment, education, food and beverage and tourism activities, in agricultural activities, we introduced serious tax rebates, especially for educational institutions. For 5 years, there's a grace period that exempts them from corporate tax and income tax. Now, we also brought novelties to minimum wage. We reduced the tax burden of employers, and those who have 3 children working on a minimum wage actually do not pay any taxes at all. And finally, as part of our economic reform program, simple tax regimen, merchants, all their income are now exempt from taxes. Now, our citizens in their own households, when they manufacture things and sell them on the internet, again, they will enjoy this particular exemption. In a bid to reduce workforce costs and support employment, we have initiated a series of very important measures. By the end of this year, every person who is going to be employed, all the social security premiums that need to be paid and taxes for 12 months will be covered by us. And similarly, employment costs, up to 36%, 1,500 Turkish lira, again, will be paid by the government. This is for women, the disabled, and young people as well. For 12 months, this will be applied to these groups. Organized industrial zones and industrial regions and free zones will be at our focus. In all of these areas, we're going to bolster value-added production, employment, research and development, design, and innovation. And in order to achieve this, again, we have enacted a series of changes, and also we have done our best to excel at this area, and we will continue to do so. Fluctuations in FX rates, of course, in order to minimize the negative effects, we have taken the necessary precautions. Thanks to the EşelMobil system, the concise tax for fuel has been reduced in a bid to prevent prices from going up. 2 lira in gas, 2.5, that's the concise tax that we need to take, but in petrol, that's 1.7 and 83 cents in gas. So every time people actually buy fuel, they are supported at least by 2 lira per liter. Now, when it comes to household gas, and again, thanks to this EşelMobil implementation, we do not get any concise excise tax at all. And this year as well, 46 billion VAT and excise tax income was actually put aside. Now, in Europe, Turkey offers the cheapest rates for fuel, and also cheapest or lowest taxes. In the past, people would fill up their tank fill up their tank here in Turkey and then leave Turkey. In addition to that, white goods, furniture, motor vehicles, and in construction as well, we offer a series of comprehensive VAT, excise tax, and stamp duty reductions, and as such, we fight inflation and support rejuvenation of our economy. Now, those who pay their taxes regularly, they will get 5% reductions in income tax and corporate tax. Those who earn will pay little, and those who earn a lot will pay more. And the tariff for income tax has been updated. And in the field of tax, our farmers, our merchants, our industrialists, our exporters, and in short, from A to Z, everyone will benefit from these arrangements, and obviously we can not cite them all here today, but the reason why we went through this trouble is to support our citizens, our manufacturers, and our farmers, to alleviate their burden and to increase the welfare and well-being of our nation. Distinguished members of our nation, certain people are saying that income tax is high and security premiums are high, and in indirect taxes, Turkey is ranking in the top ranks in the world. But just like what everything else that they say, this is also a lie. Now, social security premiums in Turkey and indirect tax income, the rate to the overall tax is increased from 63% to 53% to 60%. The share of indirect tax has been reduced to 39%. When we look at Greece, Hungary, Portugal, Estonia, and countries such as Chile as well, their rates are much, much higher than Turkey. And also, we are being criticized despite these rates, and the tax rates applied in Turkey within OECD, and when you compare Turkish rates and OECD rates, you will see that this is a blatant lie as well. Now, previously, regarding the income tax, the lowest rate was 22%. But we reduced that all the way down to 15%. When it comes to income tax, the highest tax rate was 49%, we reduced it to 40%. So as such, when it comes to income tax, we are actually nearing OECD averages. Now, in order to alleviate the negative impact of the pandemic, we took a series of measures, and corporate tax is 25% this year. Next year, it will be 23%. Now, these rates, again, are close to OECD averages. Corporate tax rate starting 2023 will be around 20%. Let us refresh our memories. In this country, corporate tax was, when we came into power, actually was 33%, as high as 33%. And today, in certain parts of the region, in order to support production, the corporate tax has been reduced to 2% in production, 0% in certain cases. And when it comes to VAT rates, I should like to say a few things. In all transactions, VAT rate, let's assume that it is 18%. In OECD countries, among OECD countries, we are the second lowest rate. We have the second lowest rate. And as you all know, 8% and 1% are two reduced rates for social purposes. And bearing these in mind, our average VAT rate is around 14%. And in terms of VAT, again, among OECD countries, we have the lowest rate. Now, though some people allege that we cannot generate tax income, but around 84% of public income is actually derived from tax income. In 2021, for our budget, 900 26 billion was what we wanted to collect. Our ministry by the end of this year is believes that this will surpass 1 trillion, and 72% of our budgetary spending will come from tax income. And as you see, as Turkey, we continue to work, we continue to produce, and we continue to create jobs, and we continue to export, and we continue to grow. And thanks to these exceptions and incentives, despite these incentives, actually, we increase our income. We try to reduce informality, and we also do our best to offer better services to our citizens. And we have instigated a series of reforms to make sure that this is the case. The revenue administration has been restructured, and right now all of the transactions can be done electronically, and thanks to the electronic tax return system that we have established, 150 million returns are submitted online per annum. And in many developed countries, when you look at their tax authorities, you do not see such an impressive performance. Ministries, banks, and social security institution, more than 100 different resources actually feed information to our revenue authority, and they carry out their tax inspections accordingly. Our reform program within this scope offers electronic notifications, as well as electronic reports. So digital tax inspection system has been devised, and tax inspection periods will be shortened. Tax payers' satisfaction will be increased, and we will use artificial intelligence in the digital tax assistance system that we are going to launch. As you see, on the one hand, we offer all sorts of advantages to our citizens, and on the other hand, we make sure that we manage public income properly in a sustainable fashion. Esteemed members of our nation, now one of the biggest problems in front of us remains high inflation. Now, in the past, we did our best to reduce inflation and grow at the same time. This was no small feat. And right now, we believe that things will be much better. Now, fighting high inflation is teamwork. Our central bank is committed to resolving this problem. And of course, it's not just the efforts of the central bank that we can achieve this. There are many factors, structural problems that give way to inflation. We need to focus on them as well with great determination. We need to break this complacency of inflation, and we need to manage demand fluctuations better. So the pricing stability committee has been established. The pandemic has also shown us that all of a sudden demand problems could arise, and we need to manage them with great speed. We need to intervene with great speed and determination. Otherwise, everyone living in this country might suffer grievances, and that is something that we do not wish to experience in Turkey. Thanks to this committee, pricing stability or destabilizers will be focused on, and we are going to create result-oriented solutions to these problems. Yet another important advantage of Turkey is the fact that in the banking sector we have a strong facade, and we need to make sure that remains the case. In order to support the Turkish lira, our institutions have taken the necessary steps in the real sector as well. We are reducing the FX-denominated positions last year. In the FX accounts, there was an increase, but starting with the beginning of this year, we are also seeing a positive trend regarding this. In order to bolster this process, TL-denominated assets must be made much more attractive, and we are working for that to happen. Let us not forget one thing. Now, for a robust economy, banking resources must be channeled into the right investments, and that can only be done by making sure that loan allocation processes are investment oriented. When we offer financing, VAT should be taken into account, competitive advantage should be taken into account, and creation of jobs must be taken into account. So we shouldn't just look at warranties when we extend loans, because they would not yield the necessary boost to our economy. We need to also shy away from increasing the current account deficit in financing. We need to reduce such activities, and within this framework, we have taken the necessary measures, and we will continue to do so. When it comes to, in addition to banking loans and also capital market instruments, again, we need to create the necessary infrastructure, and we continue to work on this. Our companies' turnovers or balance sheets should be strengthened. And this year, the first 6 months of this year, actually, 23 companies went through an public offering, and we believe that this trend will continue in the upcoming period. Now, we also would like to call out to everyone in Turkey to buy shares of these companies. Capital markets, as far as they're concerned, have actually completed two important moves, one of which is to focus on green borrowing, issuing of green papers. We are hoping to make them widespread in Turkey, and also the Sukuk guideline is being prepared. That's another important move. And secondly, guarantee fund must be established. Thanks to the guarantee mechanism that we will create, the real sector will benefit from the bond markets, and capital markets will become an important alternative to bank loans, especially when it comes to the economic reform package that we shared with the public in March. It is imperative that all the stakeholders work together, and we will continue to work together with all our stakeholders. We are actually completing 70% of the items on the bill. By the end of June, 35 actions were to be completed. 31 have been completed. 4 remaining items, 2 of them are being completed as we speak, and 2 more items are actually at the parliament right now. So whatever we envisaged for the first half of this year, we have completed successfully within this framework. When it comes to budget and fiscal management, we continue to adhere to transparency, and the report, the fiscal report, the first issue has been published, and more than 200 institutions' accounts have also been made public. Vehicle procurement and leasing in public, hosting expenditures have been limited. A savings communique has been published. The President's office and all the offices of the executive branch will continue to focus on this. Credit Guarantee Fund, warranty the 5th and 6th regions. Production-based and export-oriented investments will benefit from long-term loans. Micro and small-scale companies, for their additional employment, we will offer some incentives, and for green production as well, in order to devise the necessary technologies and make them widespread, we will continue to support R&D efforts. And also, when it comes to wasting of fruit and vegetables, we are going to support cold chain machinery and equipment. Now, 25% of our population is below the age of 18, and our children, so that they can benefit from private pension, we have offered some incentives, and also to ensure financial stability and pricing stability, we have established committees. Turkey's stability institution has become a full-fledged institution. So, as you see, we never stop. We continue to work, and we continue to run towards our goals as Turkey. We continue to work tirelessly and seamlessly. Honorable members of our nation, as we are beset by the negative effects of the pandemic, we did not neglect reforms, we did not neglect foreign affairs, neither did we neglect the perpetuity of our state, neither did we neglect security-related problems in and around Turkey. Especially when it comes to terrorist organizations, we have achieved some of our biggest accomplishments in the last couple of years, and we have been reaping the fruits of our efforts. Taking this opportunity, first of all, I would like to commemorate those who were killed by terrorists in Başbağlar 28 years ago in a heinous terrorist attack. We offer our condolences to their families, our citizens in Başbağlar, and all our martyrs. Their memories will never be forgotten. Their sacrifices will never be forgotten. The PKK, FETÖ, Daesh are all terrorist organizations, and we will continue to fight against them with all our might. Now, we do our best to eradicate the threat at the source, and whoever threatens our national security, both within and without Turkey, we continue to topple them. Now, with our Ministry of National Defense, Ministry of Interior Affairs, and our National Intelligence Agency, we continue this fight with great zeal and determinism. Now we have better means to combat terrorism, and we also target the leadership of those who support these organizations. Euphrates Shield, Olive Branch, Peace Spring, and Spring Shield operations were initiated in northern Syria to eradicate terrorism at its source. Now, within Turkey, with our police officers, with our gendarmerie, with our troops, with our ranchers and intelligence officers, we continue to combat terrorist activities. Our National Intelligence Agency is taking counter-terrorism efforts across the borders of Turkey, and as a result of the operations carried out, the higher echelons of the PKK, for the first time ever in northern Iraq, found themselves in a position where they cannot even convene and run the organization. Our armed forces also launched a series of operations, so nowhere is now safe for the PKK within and without Turkey. İsmail Özden previously, Filiz Duman, Diğer Garip, Muhammed, Hacı Kur'an, İsmail Nazlıkul, Ezer Irmak, Saliha Kaytar, these are some of the noted leaders of the organization. They were also neutralized in the last 6 months. Again, the highest echelons of the PKK, these leaders were targeted, and they experienced the same fate. The Syrian chief terrorist Murat Karayılan, and in the HQ of the organization, Sofi Nurettin, codenamed Halef El Mohammed, they were also targeted and neutralized. Interpol is looking for KCK council member Sinan Mirhan, codenamed Dalokay Şanlı, also neutralized by our armed forces. Now, Mahmur Camp chief, Dr. Hüseyin, codenamed Selman Bozkur, and Mahmud Camp KCK chief Salih Cizre, codenamed Hasan Adır, also suffered the same fate. Our National Intelligence Agency in fight against Daesh also achieved great success, got hold of precious documents that resulted in the capture of leading members of the organization. In 2016, there were attacks in Istanbul, in Sultanahmet. Daesh members Azo Halaf, Daesh member Hüsame Recep Hamid, the so-called agricultural chief Muhakkak Mustafa, and so-called Turkey chief Kasım Güler were also targeted and neutralized. Now, the failed coup attempt and many other treacherous activities were instigated by FETÖ, and we continue to work to eradicate the last traces of FETÖ. Our national intelligence and our armed forces and law enforcement officers have been revealing crypto FETÖ members. A vast majority of these people have been expelled from public service. Now, when it comes to the strategic structures of the organization, their archives, all of it has been uncovered. And this is going to be a long-term fight, and we will continue to target FETÖ, and we will continue to dismantle them. As for their international activities, again, in order to thwart their activities, we continue to work extensively. Now, obviously, we cannot share the results of all these operations with the public, but due to the confidential nature of this work, but our work that targets international members of FETÖ has resulted in the extradition of more than 100 people to Turkey. Now, only within this year, the nephew of the terrorist-in-chief, Mr. Gülen, and Mr. Yiğit, responsible for operations and again responsible for clandestine operation within the armed forces, and the liaison officer between FETÖ and PKK, they were brought to Turkey as well. These are just some of the names that were extradited to Turkey. Now, National Intelligence Agency, thanks to their patient and authentic work, achieved another success. Central Asia so-called chief of FETÖ, Orhan İnandı, was also brought to Turkey and brought to justice. This person, right now, the person you see on the screen, when he was in Turkey, he was instrumental in the clandestine organization of the FETÖ organization, and then became a leader, and he was also responsible for laundering money and in Central Asia, and also responsible for recruiting for the FETÖ organization. Recently, many such names have been captured, and this has shown once again that nowhere is safe for FETÖ across the globe. Now, the organization members are in a deep sense of panic, and in order to alleviate this, they try to tarnish Turkey's image. Just like the other terrorist organizations, we will continue to fight against FETÖ, because we believe that those who are engaged in treason against this country, against this nation, have to pay the price. We will not tolerate the existence of any organization that targets Turkey's unity. In addition to counterterrorism, there is another a phenomenon that we feel is as detrimental to our nation, and that's drug trafficking, and our customs and our law enforcement officers have achieved great success in the last couple of weeks. In the last 6 months only, yesterday in Gürbulak, 462 kgs of liquid heroin was confiscated. That included the total amount of confiscated substances stands at 7 tons, actually surpassed 7 tons. And this goes to show that Turkey protects not just its own citizens, but the citizens and youngsters of all the countries in the region. Also, our Ministry of Youth and Sport has organized events in 40 different cities across the country, and the application age has been increased from 22 to 25, and this is going to help us prepare our youngsters for life, and these camps will be available for 12 months throughout the year. Now, applications are still underway. I would like to remind you all of that, and all our youngsters are invited to these camps. May God help us in our endeavors. With these sentiments, I would like to greet you all with my deepest regards and wish you all the very best. Thank you very much indeed.